So here's a QR code and our links and email addresses. If you want to get a hold of us, if you want to find out about our upcoming events, go ahead and scan that, go to the website. We have a lot going on between these monthly chapter meetings, get-togethers, like I said, for the tours, happy hours. Then we also post other events from other organizations as well. So I just want to give everybody an idea of what we're working on behind the scenes as a board and as committees. So communications, we have a meeting this Friday where we're going to go over some of the website updates. If you do go on our website and you notice something that is maybe out of place or not current, please reach out to the board so we can take care of that. The communications committee is also responsible for all the behind the scenes, putting emails together and sending out all the chapter reminders and things like that. So thank you to CJ, Elena Maria, Ruby, all the work that you guys do, Russell. Appreciate the communications committee. Membership, Russell, do you want to let us know what's going on with that committee?
Yeah, sure. Hey, good morning, everybody, and I'm glad you're here. Our membership committee is really where we seek to make sure that we're creating valuable stuff for you guys, you know, whether it's your employer that pays for your membership or you self-sponsor. Want to make sure that those dollars are worth it. So like Ben was saying in the small talk before, we do try to make sure we have at least a couple things where people can get together face to face because it is so valuable. So we have it's not on the website yet, but it should be there soon. On the first week of November, it's going to be either the Wednesday or the Thursday, the first week of November, we have lined up a tour of the FedEx ground terminal out in Henderson by the practice facility. It's going to be freaking cool. One of our members, Darren Dorton, is the facility safety head there, and he's going to give us a really exciting sneak peek about how they keep everything going so fast and keep their employees from getting hurt. So FedEx ground facility, first week of November. It's going to be Wednesday or Thursday. It probably will be a limited capacity event, so pre-registration is going to be required, and we're looking forward to it. The other thing that our membership committee focuses on is providing value to our community. And one of the new strategies that we're trying this year is offering you guys, our members, different opportunities to kind of represent us as you go out into the community, or at least just connect bridge building for individualized service that our chapter members can take on. So earlier in this program year, back in August, we let you know about the a student mentoring program at Oakland University, which has a really great EHS program. We have some opportunities coming up on the horizon that range a couple other mentorship things, working with the school district. Gosh, there were a few others, but keep your eyes open on the communications coming out, because throughout the year, we're going to continually connect you with different opportunities where you can give back and represent safety professionals in the way and on a schedule that works for you. So those are the two main prongs of our membership committee. And Britt Brothers is the board member that kind of works on that. And Lisa Buck has really stepped up as well. Neither one of them could be here this morning, but the membership committee is alive and well because of what they're doing. And they meet on tomorrow. It's always the Wednesday after the chapter meeting at 2 p.m. And anyone's welcome to join us for that. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Russell. Reed, are you available to speak a little bit about the programming committee?
Sure. Yeah, so program committee, what we do is figure out the, monthly trainings that we do, where we have guest speakers come in and talk to us about various things. This last meeting we had was kind of fun because we were learning about the how to apply for CEUs for the trainings that we do. And we got to play around with Bloom's taxonomy of action verbs, which is interesting. For anyone that may not know what that is, it's a list of verbs that help you to kind of, measure how much you're getting out of it. And it's on a scale. So at the bottom of the scale is knowledge. So just kind of learning it. Then you have comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and then at the top, the ability to be able to evaluate it. And they have a list of verbs that kind of fall into each of those categories. So for instance, when we're, figuring out what we're going to be getting out of one of these trainings, we can maybe use like, one of these verbs. So for an example, one of the evaluation ones is compare. So, comparing, what they know and, good stuff like that.
Thank you, Reed. Yeah, so the programming committee has been very busy trying to bring extra value to everyone on these calls by getting the CEUs, and so far we're 2 out of 2 this year. As Reed said, we have the other one submitted for next month, which is going to be electrical safety. Howard Herndon is going to be presenting next month, so keep a lookout for communications on that. The programs committee meets the first Wednesday of the month at 8 a.m. Again, it's Google Meet, and it's welcome to anybody that wants to join us. And then also very exciting, if you've been around for a while, you've noticed that we haven't had an active WISE, but that's all changed this year because of Suzanne LePage, and they just had their first meeting a week or 2 ago, if I'm not mistaken. Suzanne, want to chime in on what you're doing with WISE?
Sure. Our first virtual meeting was last Wednesday, and it went okay, I guess. I guess we had a communication issue. So I had 4 in attendance, but it was great. Our topic that we were trying to get out just to make a conversation was delivering guidance in a male-dominated workforce. Most of the women that was on that day were not in the construction field, but it doesn't pertain to construction field in general. It's just sometimes women have a hard time getting into speaking with other people in different groups. And so we had a good conversation about that. And I'm hoping that we can have a in-person get together. I'm thinking either the 8th or the 15th of November. I don't have it in solid in stone yet. So, but it's going to be, I feel really great about the future for our WISE committee, and I'm hoping we can do great things in the future, definitely. So thank you, Ben.
Yeah, thank you, Suzanne. I appreciate you leading that charge, doing a great thing for the chapter and the region. All right, as Russell said, one of the drives of the membership committee is not only give back to our members, but to give back to the community. And we do have a need. Is anybody here familiar with FIRST Robotics? So I first became aware of FIRST Robotics when I was a freshman in high school. My city that I grew up in Indiana, we had 4 high schools, and I'm not sure how I got picked or found out about it, but we got like 2 or 3 kids from each high school, got them together this robotics program, which is kind of all about STEM, but they make it fun. So you literally build a robot from scratch, and then you compete against other teams throughout the country, and now it's the world. And this program has really blown up. There's even a couple movies about it and documentaries that maybe we'll have to send that out in communications. But there is an active community here in Southern Nevada. They partner with all the CCSD schools everywhere from elementary now with like a Lego program all the way up to high school. And they have dedicated safety manager volunteer roles where you go in and you check for safety and you communicate safety. It's a short-term role. It's a day or 2 volunteer role, but you could split up with a few people. So we were definitely looking for anyone that would be interested in doing that. There's also opportunities to do judging at the competitions, being referees. And this is really, if you think about it, is getting the next generation excited about the safety profession and continuing what we all started, and we want to continue to diversify the industry. I do have a quick little video that I'd like to share.
Hey there. We're so glad you're here. Get ready to step into the spotlight this year. Where are we headed? I'm sure you want to know. Let me set the stage for where we'll go. You've got STEAM. Science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. Doing your best while practicing your craft. STEAM inspires big ideas, bold action, and creativity. These skills empower us to bring ideas to life and build the future. Film, music, theater, photography. Design a world of endless possibilities. Create art and experiences that entertain and inspire. Dream big, out loud. Fuel your creative fire. There may come a time in your journey ahead when things aren't going like they did in your head. When you give yourself the freedom to fail, your best ideas are free to set sail. So remember to always chase after that dream. Because behind you, you have a global community, a worldwide team. It's the memories you'll make and the magic you'll build. No ideas unexplored, no dreams unfulfilled. The future is a place you will create. So, are you ready? Welcome to First in Show, presented by Qualcomm.
So as you can see, there's lots of opportunities there to introduce safety to the next generation in these things. So if anybody is passionate at all about giving back or volunteering, working with kids, please reach out to me or the board, and we'll get you connected with this great organization. It was very impactful to me. I mean, we went to Orlando for competition, and it was the first time I had ever, been away from my family for any extended period of time, and it was a really cool experience. Hey, Tim, would you like to say something? Maybe it was a raised hand on accident.
He meant high five, maybe.
Okay, so moving on to other upcoming events. So the Nevada Contractors Association is doing a suicide prevention and mental health forum. It's 2 weeks, I believe, September 28th. It's from 11 a.m. to noon. Free lunch is provided. It's open to everyone within or without the construction industry. Just anyone that's interested in safety. This is a very timely topic and a very important topic. We all deal with mental health issues every day. So this would be a good one. Here's the information. You go to nvcontractors.org and you could sign up free registration on their website. We could put that in the chat too. And so keep an eye on that. That's also on our events page on the Southern Nevada website. All right, next I'd like to make a quick announcement to our good friend Ronit Levy. She just passed her ASSP exam. I think it was last week, and she's a very valuable member of our membership committee. She moved to Las Vegas about 9 months ago and is working as a safety role in manufacturing, and really cool stuff. So if you get to know Renee, please reach out and tell her congratulations. All right, now I'd like to introduce Tyler Sprigg, our meeting sponsor today, Multidynamics. Thank you very much for sponsoring our meeting and doing this helmet giveaway. Tyler, would you like to say a few words?
I'm just excited to be here and definitely enjoying learning what you guys do every day and what your guys' organization does to help people stay safe.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So everyone that pre-registered before noon yesterday has been entered into a raffle to win the helmet. So let's go ahead and give this thing a spin and we'll see who the lucky winner is. Al Roth, congratulations, Al. So we'll figure out a way to get this over to you.
Nice. If I could just add, Malta has been, so anyone that knows me knows that falls are probably my favorite hazard to work with. And Malta has been a real partner for my company for 4 years running now, just in supplying us with materials, demo gear, all sorts of good stuff, so that we can show folks, you know, when they come through a fall protection training, what does a good harness need to look like? What should you be inspecting for? Malta gives back a ton to the Work at Height community. So I just like to chime in really quick. They're not the biggest name, but they make fantastic equipment and they're committed to giving back to our profession. Big thank you.
Yep, thanks, Russell. Thanks, Multidynamics. Thank you, Tyler. So Russell, if you'd like to introduce Rod, and we'll kick this off. I know he's got a lot of really important information to share with us this morning. I'm really excited for this presentation.
Can do. Yeah, so while Ben kills his screen and Rod brings his up, I'll just give you a little bit of background on our speaker. A lot of folks have seen Rod around. He does a crap ton for the professional safety community, but also for employee and worker safety in general. So he's currently with Penta Building Group, and he's been there since 2007, I believe. If you looked at this man's ratio of project dollars to significant injuries, it's probably fantastic. The man is more than the number, but this is someone who understands that balance between safe work habits and making big things happen, big buildings happen. I've got a lot of respect for him, and it's been a real pleasure to be able to have him speak on a couple different occasions. You might remember that he also gave us some insight on how the Occupational Safety and Health Review Board works. He serves as a member at the state level there, representing the trades, and it's so. The point I'm trying to make is, whether it's on the clock or off the clock, Rod is continually giving back to make sure that safe workplaces continue to exist in Nevada, whether it's on his watch or whether he's helping other employers accomplish that themselves through his work on the review board. Anyway, one of the things most recently that I respect about Rod is his leadership of Penta's transition from hard hats to helmets. If you have people working at height, this is an important conversation to have. And even if folks' feet never leave the ground, but for a builder as large as Penta, it's no small task to change the rudder from one long time institutional piece of PPE to something a little bit newer and different and all that great stuff. So Rod's going to talk a little bit about the Z89 standard, but the meat and potatoes of his presentation is the story of Penta's transformation. And I hope you guys get a lot about how you can influence your organizations, whether it's helmets or something else, how you can influence your organizations to continually be improving how we protect workers. All that being said, thank you so much, Rod, for spending time with us this morning. Take it away, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I appreciate you inviting me. And it's great to see everybody online here, virtually. I miss still getting together live. I think there's certainly a different aspect to this, but really appreciate everyone being available to come online. And yeah, like Russell said, this really should be more of a study about the application of a new safety, the application of a new safety standard that you're trying to roll out to your company, because really that's what this is. It's just a journey. It could have been, heat illness program, or it could have been, head protection. And I'll kind of go into the story. This slideshow that I created and sent to Russell was kind of created internally for our team to kind of share with our executive team, our executive management committee, and for us to be able to explain the reasoning and the rationale kind of behind why we would move from hard hats to helmets. And if you're not in construction and you don't wear helmets, again, look at the principle of what I'm going to share with you today, and that is, how do we effectively roll out a new safety campaign? Because there's some valuable points here that I think everybody should be able to kind of glean from and maybe implement at your own organization. So, and I don't know if I know everybody online, so it's great to see so many different people online here that are within all of the different aspects of safety, all the different industries and different markets. So it is exciting. As Russell said, yeah, I'm the Executive Safety and Quality Director for Penta Building Group, and we are the largest, by volume, we're the largest general contractor in the state of Nevada. We do work in California and Arizona. And so what we found was that within the construction industry, a lot of the big contractors are moving towards helmets. And we were not necessarily the first. I mean, there's some big ones. Clark was, I think, one of the very first ones. And then, McCarthy and Turner and, Swinnerton, some of the other big contractors. And so we started seeing the market moving in that direction. And it's cool to see Malta here, representing and sharing their helmets, because they've got some cool helmets. So this is not a helmet presentation to just tell you, like, try and sell you any type of helmet or anything. So please don't come away with that. There's a lot of good brands out there, and there's a lot of cool stuff, and I'll kind of share kind of our journey and how we got there. But again, in the construction industry, there was a big trend for a lot of the kind of more progressive and larger contractors to start implementing helmets. The one thing that we felt that a lot of them didn't do was they didn't require it for their entire subcontractor base of workers or trade partners that were coming out to work for them, because there's a big financial investment in that, because most contractors, when you're asking them to wear a $150 helmet and not a $100 helmet, I mean a $15 helmet, there's a big difference between a $15 or $20 hard hat and a $100 to $150 helmet, when it's all outfitted and everything. And so a lot of them, they want to submit change orders, and they want to, on their proposals, they want to add the extra money in there, which then raises the price of whatever, activity or whatever service they're providing for you. It raises the price of their contract. And so a lot of contractors kind of shied away from that. And I think what we looked at was, hey, if it's good for us, it's good for our subcontractor partners as well. But how do we do that? How do we roll it out? So that's kind of what I want to talk to you about today. And again, this is where we're going to get into some of the kind of implementation of how do we roll out a new safety standard within your organization. And I'm sure all of you have had those challenges, right? Where you've had your executive team come down and say, hey, we want to do this, or, it's going to be, everyone wears a pink shirt on Wednesday, and everyone's like, what, why, So you're having to explain it, and you're having to figure out, where do we buy pink shirts and how do we get them to fit everyone? All the little logistical details, that fall probably onto your plate, or certainly someone that you supervise. That is obviously a big concern, and that's part of the process. So again, in this case, it was rolling out from hard hats to helmets. So what we were currently, this is a little bit grainy on my end. Hopefully it looks better on yours. But what we were looking at is, a traditional hard hat. And again, they got to be relatively inexpensive. Now, there were some more expensive varieties, but for the most part, they were reasonably priced, and most people were used to wearing those within the construction industry. And then what we were moving to was something that was, much more protective. Of course, you can see there, it's a totally different style. It's a different look than what the traditional hard hats are. And so that, may or may not have been a problem when we look at that. So we looked at some of the things, and I'm not going to read all this. It's very wordy, but really this is kind of what does OSHA require? And sometimes it's not just a matter of meeting. Sometimes it's not a matter of just complying with OSHA. Because again, compliance with OSHA just means that you're passing, right? That's like in school, if you get a D, you're passing. It's like, yeah, I got a D. So I don't get an F in the class, and I get, whatever the grade point is for that 1 point, I believe. Hopefully you guys are all hearing this. I got some guy down below us here doing construction, and they're grinding, and it's really loud. So hopefully you don't hear that. But so this is just kind of like, what does OSHA require? OSHA requires that basically you provide head protection when it's needed, and that you have to go out and do a hazard assessment, right? So just like in every industry, right? Whether you're in manufacturing or whether you're in hospitality and gaming or whatever industry you're in, we all have to do hazard assessments, and we have to look at our areas and see. We have to be competent people, right? We have to be able to look for recognizable, existing or predictable hazards, right? And then we have to be able to figure out what PPE, if anything, is necessary. Do we engineer the hazard out? Do we eliminate, substitute? Do we administratively control it? All the different hierarchy that OSHA provides. Those are the things that we had to look at. So we obviously took in consideration, what does OSHA require, from us? So that was certainly a consideration when we were looking to roll this out. The other thing was, what are some of the ANSI categories? Because obviously OSHA doesn't necessarily have all of the rules there, and a lot of times they incorporate things, as everyone knows. OSHA will incorporate by reference various other standards and industry consensus standards and things that they want to implement, or they want you to implement, so they incorporate it by reference rather than having to rewrite the entire regulation. So ANSI, as you know, has come out. That's the American National Standards Institute. If someone's new to safety, I don't like to throw out all these terms about at least defining it. I know I'm preaching to the choir with 90% of you, but we may have a new safety person on board in this meeting that may not be as familiar with some of the acronyms. So I don't want to assume that everyone just understands everything. So, but the ANSI is the American National Standards Institute. And it's kind of like the UL rating you have on the back of your toaster when you plug in your toaster. It just means that Underwriters Laboratory has done some, testing per the manufacturer. Manufacturer gives it to them and says, hey, here's what we want you to look at. And then they test it and they make sure that it meets whatever the manufacturer's claims are. And so it's the same thing with ANSI. So you'll see in most PPE, they have the EN standard, which is European number. And then there's the ANSI standard, which is the American number that's associated with that particular product and how well it performs. So the American standard obviously is a little bit higher. Well, not obviously, but the American standard, America tries to be the best. And so we love that about Americans. So anyways, they've tried to up the ante, so to speak, with the European standard. So ANSI came out with their own rating system for these helmets. And so they've basically got two types of helmets with three different classes. And so the type is type 1, which provides protection if something were to drop on top of your head. And it gives you that literally just the top protection. And then the type 2 helmet provides like 360 protection, so front, side, and back. So if you were to fall, gives that extra protection. Now, we all have probably seen people fall and, potentially hit your head. And sometimes I'm seen on YouTube or America's Funniest Home Videos or whatever, which I don't think they're always funny when someone gets hurt. But when someone does fall, a lot of times you'll see their head slam or it hits the ground. And that's that 360 protection that we're looking for, right? Because if someone does fall, there's a good chance they're not going to just land right on top of their head, or something's not going to just fall just on top of their head. or that they happen to be standing upright when it lands on them, right? Sometimes people are bent over or they're leaning one way. So we looked at providing that 360 protection. So we decided to go with the Type 2 helmet. And then for the different, or the class, the type, then for the classes, we looked at the different classes that they offer were Class G, which is kind of a general rating, gives you electrical protection up to about 2,200 volts. Class E was the highest electrical rating, and that would give you 20,000 volts protection. And then there was a Class C, which is basically means it's conductive. It's just a hard hat that protects you from, bumps and falls and those types of things. It doesn't really provide any electrical protection. Those would be the type that you see that have vents on them, where they're a little cooler and you get a little airflow in there, which is nice. It's a great feature. However, like for us, it didn't really provide that level of electrical protection that we wanted for our employees. Now, we don't necessarily require that for all of our subcontractors. It depends on what type of work they do. But for us, because we're a general contractor and we do a lot of remodel work and renovation work, where we're going into an existing facility where they might have overhead lighting or wall sconces, and we might have various potential electrical hazards. We thought, listen, if our guy climbs up a ladder to go poke his head through a ceiling and see what's up above there, right, to do some demo work, we don't want any live electrical wires coming in contact with his helmet and then, potentially electrocuting someone because we're not providing adequate protection. So we ended up going with a Type 2 helmet with Class E protection. So that was just our, preference. This is what we were currently using. So what we did is we kind of did a comparison. We looked at like, hey, what are we using now? Went to our executive team and said, here's what we're using now. And then here's what we're thinking about using. So the top benefits there were like, it was OSHA compliant. It was certainly a popular style, and it was inexpensive. I mean, that was really the gist of it. And then what we were considering was using something more comprehensive that would really provide additional protection. And then we looked at, all the different potential benefits of it there. Top benefits, obviously, was it's actually more comfortable. It has the chin strap, so it keeps it on your head. So if you do fall, it doesn't just pop off. And then it is kind of a new industry trend. And we also didn't want to be the people that were like, we're holding out, we're not going to do it. We thought, listen, if we're going to be best in class, let's be leaders in the industry, right? Rather than just followers. And I'm sure a lot of your companies are the same way, right? You guys are looking at cutting edge technology, whether it's AI or, that video that Ben showed with the first robotics, I think, Ben, that's amazing. I mean, these kids are brilliant, right? I mean, they're smarter in 6th grade than I was, after college. And so, that's a whole different level of engineering. And to be honest, that video's absolutely right. Those are the kids that are going to be looking at these types of products and engineering things out there for us. So we looked at, what are the industry trends, and we don't want to be, lagging on that. And we also saw that this added some additional protection from what we actually had. So we went out, we did kind of a survey. We tried a bunch of different styles. These are just some examples, I think, of some of the different ones that we looked at. And so these are just some of the options. Again, we're not promoting any particular brand of helmet here, but we just looked at a bunch of them. We figured they're all around $100 or a little more, a little less. They had different styles that were available in Type 1, Type 2, and then they had all the different classes. The helmet styles offered each one offered some additional pros and cons, right? Some of them had more or less attachments than others. Some of them, had the integrated 4-point chin strap. Some of them tried to come up with something where you could add it on. So what we did is we tried to really look at all of our options. We did a pretty good study on this. And I'll kind of get to that, the real kind of impetus for our journey. I want to kind of share that with you too, because it really ties in with next month's suicide prevention talk. And so we actually did quite a bit of research on this, on traumatic brain injuries, and we'll kind of go into that. what we found was that in general, construction was the most dangerous industry for traumatic brain injuries, comprising about 24% of all workplace fatalities annually. And the majority of those involved some type of trauma to the head. And it was interesting because when we started looking at some of these statistics, right? Construction had the most fatal and non-fatal traumatic brain injuries among all US workplaces. So, I mean, think about that. There's a million different trades in America, right? There's a million things that we do, that we build, that we design, that we service. And if you think about all the vast amount of workers and types of occupations in America, construction was not only the most dangerous in general, but it had the most fatal and non-fatal traumatic brain injuries. So we really felt like, hey, it really behooves us to make sure that we're taking our safety to that best in class level. Structural iron and steel workers and roofers had the highest fatal traumatic brain injury rate, obviously because they're falling. So more than likely they're hitting their heads, and there's usually some repercussion from that. But the other thing that we discovered too was that when people are experiencing traumatic brain injuries, they're more likely also to be prescribed some type of a pain medication or some type of medication, which we felt really plays into the whole, mental health issue, right? Because when people are either taking prescription drugs or non-prescription drugs, or they're drinking, or they're taking something to try and soothe that pain or relieve that pressure that they may be feeling, or maybe they're out of work, right? Maybe they get injured on the job, and then the guy's sitting at home or the gal's sitting at home, and they have bills mounting that maybe the work comp benefits aren't really covering 100%, or they have other things, stresses at home, like maybe they're not able to take their daughter to cheerleading practice, or they're not able to go play soccer with their son or daughter because they're just not mentally or physically up for that type of activity. And this is due because of things that happen at the job site. So the job site traumatic brain injuries will greatly contribute potentially to off work, problems and challenges that people have. And so we didn't want to contribute to that, right? We know that suicide is astronomical rates right now for suicide. And they're the highest in construction. So it's kind of weird, man. Construction's got a couple of real negative elements to it there, that we don't like to necessarily have those attributed to construction workers per se. Say, well, they have the most traumatic brain injuries and they also have the highest suicide rate. So we looked at those two things and said, is there any correlation between those? And we felt like, yes, there certainly is, or there certainly could be the potential for that. And so we went through a lot of research on this. We met with Cal Bayer, we met with suicide awareness folks, for the foundations. We met with all types of things. We looked at some research. We experienced within Penta, we had some of our previous supervisors who have committed suicide here in the last, I would say, 15 or 16 years. We've had several people, and in most of those cases, they were on some type of a pain, reduction medication because of either an injury they had sustained when they were younger, or they were misusing something they had been prescribed. So we really felt like we don't want to contribute to that by having someone accidentally fall, hit their head, and then end up becoming one of those people. So that's the same with all of us, right? Because we all have people that go up a ladder at work and they're getting something, and nobody thinks like, oh, we need to have someone on a ladder wearing a helmet, because it's not really on our high on the radar, really. But maybe some of you do have that policy, and if you do, that's awesome. That's very progressive, and that's a great way to think. If you don't have it, I'm not saying to go out and implement that. I'm just saying that those are the types of things we should look at. We should look at where are those opportunities for somebody to be injured, for someone to suffer a traumatic brain injury, for instance, or any other type of injury for that matter. It doesn't have to just be like helmets, because a lot of you, again, have people that just work on the ground. But even falls from the same level can cause, traumatic brain injury. But maybe this isn't the big focus for your industry. Maybe it's slips, trips, and falls. Maybe it's pinch points. Maybe it's people putting their hands into moving parts. I did some consulting for a while for a big sheet metal production company for a while, and they actually had a fatality, which is why I got involved with them. And it was a friend of mine that was the general manager for the company, and they had several locations around Nevada and California and Arizona. And so I did some consulting with them, and they actually had a fatality, and theirs was not from anything falling, hitting someone in the head. Theirs was actually from a stand-up forklift in their shop, and the guy had tried to back up, and he actually ran into the rack, and he got pinned against the forklift, and it just crushed him. I mean, it just basically suffocated him, squeezed him. He was laying on the controls, couldn't get off the controls. This was probably 15 years, well, probably about 15 years ago. So obviously they've reconfigured now some of the forklift designs, and there's been all kinds of changes to some of the industry standards with that. And so I'm sure a lot of you are probably familiar with those types of accidents as well. But that's the type of thing we just need to be, aware of. What are we trying to protect against? So what we did, here's the initiative that we came up with. We determined, and this is a lot of writing, I'm just going to kind of explain it to you. What we did is we kind of went in a phased direction. So we went and we found the helmet after a bunch of trials, and we had people trying different helmets. We kind of did a vote. The consensus was that we felt the Milwaukee brand helmet for us had the most comfort, had the most, usability. It seemed like it had the most attachment features that we could put on there. And just for our, for what we were doing, it seemed like we had the best bang for the buck on that. And so we ended up buying those. Our initial order was like 400, and we bought a couple hundred for Penta and a couple hundred for All Fives, which is our self-perform division. So we have a self-perform division within Penta that kind of self-performs concrete, primarily structural concrete. And then we do some labor work, general cleanup stuff. So we're signatory with carpenters because we're a union contractor in Nevada. So we're signatory with carpenters, laborers, and cement finishers. So we ordered 200 for our self-perform guys, 200 for our people. And then we began creating a very positive, but a voluntary program. And what we did is we incentivized it. And so we started giving people rewards and opportunities to be entered in raffles and all kinds of things just by wearing it. So we also provided a variety of colors. So we went out and we said, okay, we're going to get the Milwaukee brand, but they have one brand that has a small brim in the front. So it almost looks like a baseball batting helmet style. And then some that had no brim in the front. And so we offered both styles, and we also offered four different colors, which kind of all were within our color scheme. So we went with blue, gray, black, or white. So we offered four different colors. And so the thing I'll say on that is anytime you're rolling out a new type of safety initiative, the more kind of options you can give people. So it's not like everyone will wear a green helmet or everyone will wear green pants on Friday. The more variety you can give people, sometimes the less kind of rigid and regulated it seems. And listen, as Americans and as people in general, we like freedom to kind of be able to decide and choose things, what we want. And so we realized that. So one of the things that we did, we looked at how can we really create a positive campaign about this? So one of the ideas that we came up with was looking at athletes, for instance, right? Because part of the argument was, why don't we just stay with what we're doing? And it's like, well, that sounds great, but we're advancing and we're making technological advancements all the time in industry in general, not just in construction with helmets, right? So we looked at saying, okay, what type of advancement have we made in other industries? So we looked at sports, because there's so many people that are into athletics now, and there's so many, icons within the sports industry, whether it's soccer players or hockey players or football players, or, you know, in any sport, right? Football, baseball, hockey. It was just like, man, there's so many people that wear helmets within their particular sport that are like icons for people, right? Whether it's Tom Brady or whether it's, Mark Stone from the Golden Knights, go Knights go, right? So, there's obviously people that are implementing these things, these tools within their industry, right? And they don't always look the best, right? Sometimes now you've seen the new football helmets. If you watch football, they've got some bigger football helmets now that have more padding on the top, which again go to the traumatic brain injury that they found within football players, right? So now they're trying to redesign some of the football helmets. So it's no different than that. So we thought, listen, if we can find a bunch of athletes that people recognize, let's use them as some role models here for using advancement. And one of the ones that we found was Tony Hawk. And Tony Hawk, obviously a skateboarder, and he has his brand everywhere. It's in Walmart, it's in Target, in every store probably, and every kid in America knows Tony Hawk. And yet he wears helmets, right, when he skateboards. So we looked at trying to really reach people kind of where they live and try and create a real positive image. So we came up with a poster campaign, came up with a marketing campaign. We really tried to just find positive ways to roll it out. So we had some project-specific ideas. We partnered with fasteners, and they were able to come out and help us with Milwaukee. And then we were able to do what we called like pop-ups. And we had these helmet pops, and we're still doing them now. We're still just promoting it throughout the year. But we had to do these helmet pop-ups. And what we do is we'd have them come out, and we'd set the helmets up, and then we would just do raffles. And we would tell the workers, hey, if you guys want, come over a break or at lunch, and you guys can learn about the helmets. You can check them out, hold them, feel them, touch them. And then what we'll do is we'll raffle some of these off. Or we even offered this. If you wanted to trade in your old helmet, but let's say you want to keep the helmet for nostalgia's sake, and you've got a bunch of stickers on there, right? Or it was your dad's helmet and he gave it to you, your grandpa gave it to your dad, who knows. Take out the lining of the helmet. Just give us the lining so that you just have an old shell and you can keep the shell. But you give us a lining, we'll let you trade it in for a new style helmet that's probably 10 times as much as the old one's even worth. And we did a lot of that too. So we tried to find positive ways to roll it out. This is before we made it mandatory at all. Then when we got to about halfway, well, about 3/4 of the way through the year, we decided, this started in March. And then about in September, we decided that would be our date where it's going to be rolled out, and it's going to just be mandatory for all of our sub partners and everyone. And so everybody was kind of fearful. Everyone kept telling us, good luck getting it rolled out with the subs. Oh man, everyone's going to push back. People are going to quit. So we felt that let's roll this thing out with such a positive view and with so much executive support behind it. And let's create a positive spin on this thing that by the time we require our subs to do it, they'll just kind of already be embracing it and they'll see the value in it. It doesn't mean that we didn't have a few subs tried to say, hey, well, can you pay for it? It's a lot of money. And there's probably a couple mom and pop subs. I say that, lovingly, right? We have some mom and pop subs that are smaller. They do great work, but maybe they've only got a handful of employees and they, literally just have one truck. Some of them, they may have had real small contracts with us. And so we may have helped them and said, hey, we'll give you a discount or something. We'll help you get some helmets. But for the most part, when we rolled this out after Labor Day, we had really 100% just embracing this. And we didn't really have any pushback. So it was amazing. The rollout that we had, I really feel that the success of our rollout and the implementation of these helmets now, and again, this could be for anything you do on your project site or at your shop or, with whatever industry you have. I feel that with the more positive implementation and you roll it out with that in mind, that this is exciting and new. We're not wearing old leather football helmets anymore. right? We've advanced, right? NASCAR guys don't wear the old little bubble helmets that they did back in the 50s or 60s when they first started wearing those. Now they have these advanced helmets that have, speakers in them and everything, and they're strapped to the seat. Now you have guys in racing now that have these horrific accidents, and then they get out of the car and they walk away and raise their hands like, I'm all right. And it's amazing that people live through that type of stuff. But that's because of the advanced technology that we have available now that we didn't have years ago. So really, when you look at it from a positive light, like, hey, this is all good stuff. It's only going to make us safer, which is going to make us work better, and it's going to allow you to work faster, and it's going to allow you to really produce more. And whatever you do, whether you make widgets or whether you build buildings or whatever your service or your product is. So we really felt like we're going to just start rolling this out, and we also promoted it at our safety kickoff event that we did. So we really started to this, about a year ago. We really started just rolling this out internally, so that by the time we got to the external, to our subs, it was already a pretty positive campaign. And we found that, at our safety kickoff events, I don't know if you've been there, but certainly everybody on the line is welcome to attend. We have 3 events coming up in January. We're going to have one in Angel Stadium. We're going to have one that's in, I think, January 9th. January 11th, we're having one at ASU football stadium. And then January 29th, we just signed a deal. We're going to have our next safety kickoff down at the South Point. So we're excited about those events, and you can certainly come to those. But at those events, what we did last year is we gave away a bunch of helmets. Every contractor that came, we arranged a deal with Milwaukee where they would provide 2 free helmets for them to take and try out. So it was great. I mean, that was a great partnership with Milwaukee. That was a big investment on their part. But they turned out to be a great partner for us, and Fasteners helped get us that deal set up. So it was great. We had a lot of help along the way, right? There's a lot of great partnerships, and that's the same thing you guys do. Whether it's with those companies, or whether it's with Malta, or whether it's with whatever company you guys work with, go to them and ask them to help you with some of these campaigns. So if you're rolling out a new process, or you're rolling out a new product, or a new piece of equipment, look for those opportunities to partner with some of your other people within the industry. And so it was great. I mean, the other thing is, I also had some good help. So I don't know if any of you guys remember Billy Naylor. He used to live in Vegas for quite a while. He was the safety director for McCarthy. And so we have a pretty open book policy at Senta, where we share any information with safety. We share it. So Billy with McCarthy, and Tom Moreno with Sletton, who's a good friend of mine as well. And so there's all of us. Tyson, who used to be now he's with City of Henderson, but Tyson used to be with Martin Harris. Now it's George Macias. So there's a group of us that got together, and some guys at Kitchell, and we kind of started loosely what we called the Nevada Contractor Safety Council. And we started looking at things that we could do and help each other with and share. So we really have a pretty open relationship, all of us, and we share information with each other. And here's our program, what's your program, and how do you guys do these things? Well, McCarthy was able to provide me a lot of good information on the helmets, because they are also in the same process. They recently rolled it out. I think they actually beat us by 3 months. They made theirs a policy in June, but Billy has since moved. He's been promoted now. He's the head of McCarthy's whole safety nationwide, and he lives in Texas. But Jim and I still stay in touch. So he was able to really help me with this as well. And it's no different than this organization, right? Where you've got some good partners here. So even if you're in a competing market, so to speak, when it comes to safety, there's really no competition, because what's good for one is good for another. And at the end of the day, as safety professionals, all we're trying to do is just save people from being hurt, being killed on the job, so they can go enjoy life, right? Because at the end of the day, this is just a job, right? If someone's in your factory making widgets, or someone's putting together boxes of things and shipping things out, or someone's driving a vehicle and a truck distributing products for you, or if someone's building buildings for you, at the end of the day, it's just a job. And they all have family and friends they're just trying to support through this vehicle, which we all have an opportunity to help regulate and to help, make it effective and make it safe for them. So, tap into each other. And that was one of the things that I did when we rolled this out. So some of the things that we considered were, and these are very real things, right? Some of the challenges that we did kind of have to overcome was the style, right? So people were just like, it looks dorky. I look like a mountain climber. Well, why are mountain climbers dorky and construction guys aren't, right? So we looked at the style, and we had to kind of address that with people. We looked at the fit. We looked at the comfortability, and we looked at the size adjustability to these things. So these are just all some of the considerations. Just like when you're rolling out whatever program you're doing or whatever new piece of equipment, you'll have to look at the same things on there, and you'll have to look at all the different elements and say, what are we trying to meet, right? From a safety aspect, what are we trying to do to keep people safe? What is the intent of this new process or this new product or this new piece of equipment? What is the value that we're looking for? And then you're going to have to go through and kind of answer some of these questions and then be able to kind of resolve those and then be able to speak to those, because they're going to come up and people are going to challenge you. They're going to say, well, why can't we wear the vented ones? Why can't we wear a class type C or a class C instead of a class E? Well, for us, we had to be able to explain, and we were able to do that actually through photos and through videos and all kinds of stuff. When we'd walk the job, and you would see there would be people that would leave a wire that was not protected or that was, accidentally energized. Now, we don't make a habit of those things, but do those things happen? Absolutely. Do things happen on your jobs like that? Absolutely, right? If we never had safety incidents or we never had chances for mistakes to occur in the workplace, none of us would have jobs, certainly not in safety, right? So we're no different. We have to go out and make a conscious effort to try and recognize existing or predictable hazards. And so what we did is we looked at what hazards are we trying to mitigate, and then what are some of the opposition or challenges that we're going to face. So these are all things that we considered. And again, like I talked about, we went with a variety of colors. And again, the one thing is we really tried to make this positive. We tried to make it not about you will do this. We said you have an opportunity now to be even safer at work and to wear the newest, latest, greatest technology. And we told the workers that it was about them. We were investing, what, to be honest, was 5 or 6 or maybe even 10 times more than what they would pay for a traditional helmet or a hard hat with a new helmet. That we were willing to invest that in them because we cared about their safety. And to be honest, most of our workers really came back and thanked us and said, hey, I appreciate you looking out and providing the best stuff for us, right? So it's no different than if you provide someone a safe ladder at your shop, right? Are you going to give them some old rickety, wooden ladder from like 1965? Oh, here you go. Use it, and the guy's getting up there, the gal's up there, and they're wobbling, and they feel unsafe, right? Or are you providing them the newest, latest, and greatest version, and it's safe? Most of us are trying to do that, right? If we're not, I know that we're struggling with our companies to be able to do that. And I know a lot of people are in different positions and they're in different, seasons at wherever they're at. And sometimes you're new to your company and you don't really have the juice to say, no, we're going to buy this. Some of you have been there forever and you can just call the shots. Whatever you say goes. So I would just say these are all things to consider. Again, these are just some recommendations. This is just for our helmet rollout, but these are some of the things that we looked at. Providing a variety in styles, as much as we could. We required all the subs to provide the same level of head protection, but it was based on their risk. So we didn't try and force our research and our product on them. We didn't say, you have to wear thus and such. We said, we just want you to meet this minimum standard now that provides additional protection than what you previously had been. Now, if you're not exposed to electrical hazards, don't feel obligated to go out and get the type E or the class E helmet. If the Class C works for you, then, you know, that's fine. So we did kind of put some recommendations here. And then our poster ideas. So we looked at a couple of different things. The one I was telling you about with the helmet poster with the athletes, we printed off probably, we had to go on. You can see in the top right corner, it actually has the athlete's name. And then it says it's a Getty Images library picture. So we did, because initially I just grabbed a bunch of pictures off the internet, put them together, and I shot it out to marketing. And they said, we can't just put, you know, published pictures of people that you find on the internet into a poster, because they find out we're using it for some type of business venture, then they're going to want some money off that picture. So we ended up going and finding, you know, the Getty library, and we're able to purchase a lot of these photos. But you can see here, like even Tony Hawk on the skateboard here is, you know, wearing a helmet. So it was great. We found recognizable athletes, and we just promoted the heck out of it. The other thing we did, we put it in English and in Spanish, because we knew that in our particular industry, and your industries may be the same or may be different. You might have a different group of people that, you know, work within your industry, but we wanted to make sure that this was relevant and applicable and understandable to all the different nationalities that we would have. And in construction, it's primarily Hispanic and then English speakers. So we put them in Spanish, and then we created a recent one called Stop the Drop, and this is kind of a new promotion for us, because we do work at heights, and we do work on, you know, multi-story buildings. And if we have something fall, you know, there's a good chance that it could hit somebody. We want to make sure that their head is obviously protected. The most important piece of our body, the most important piece is obviously our head, right? Bones will heal, brains might not. So we want to make sure we're protecting the head. So we came up with this additional poster this year too. So, and I'll tell you something. I'll give you a quick little story. You know, some of you may know that we are currently working on, you know, a few big projects in town. One that's, I'm sure, very annoying for anybody driving around the strip, because the F1 project, they've got the roads tore up everywhere, and you're not the only one experiencing that. We are as well. And so, but we're also trying to manage the work as it's going on within the public areas. And so we're working a lot in the middle of the night, right? We've got kind of around the clock work, because this is a big race coming to town, and we've only got a few more weeks. But as we were working at night, there was a contractor that was setting some big concrete, you know, barriers out there in the road for us. And they had it rigged to the forklift, and they had a rigging apparatus that was on the forks that would help them lift this material and then put it in place. But as they repetitiously were doing, you know, block after block after block, and these blocks weighed about 1,000 to 1,500 pounds. And then they're being rigged to the fork, and then you'd have a guy, you know, standing off to the side, holding a tagline, trying to set it. At some point, they'd have to get in there sometimes and reposition it, and they would be close to where the load was at. Well, after setting about 12 of these blocks one night, the rigging that was on the forks actually slid up, and this big rigging block, which weighs about 50 pounds, slid off and hit one of the workers right on top of the head. Fortunately, he was wearing the new helmet style, and we called 911. We took him to the hospital, got him all checked out, and thankfully he was able to go home the same night. He was fine. He didn't have a concussion. He had a little bit of a neck ache, so I think they gave him some, like, a muscle relaxer for his neck, and they gave him like some ibuprofen, and he was back to work the next day, and he's, you know, 100% now. So we're very fortunate. You know, this is real life, right? These types of things happen, and that particular injury was the outcome of that injury was greatly reduced because of the fact that he was wearing the correct helmet. So these things really do work, and I think when we roll it out in a positive manner, and you can use some of these things as examples to show this is why we're doing that, I think people see it and they see the value, and they'll actually appreciate it. So, but again, it's just like anything, it's all in the delivery, right? And I think if we as safety professionals will really focus on how do we deliver this information, how do we deliver a new change, how do we deliver a new product or a new process? Do we do it with, oh yeah, we're being required to do this now, oh this, Or do we do it with a positive attitude? Do we do it like we're selling it and we're excited and enthusiastic about it? Because what's one thing that's contagious more than COVID? It's called enthusiasm. And when you're enthusiastic and positive about something, it will rub off on other people and they'll get enthusiastic and excited about it. So that's kind of how we did it. That was our journey. And that was it.
Well, thank you so much, Rod. Does anybody have any questions or comments they want to speak about to Rod? Yeah, let's go ahead.
I've got one. We rolled these out a couple of years ago at my site, and thankfully we're finished with construction. But the biggest issue that we ran into, besides everything you pointed out as far as accepting it and change and all that, was loss. Like if we would have put up a Tony Hawk poster, every single skateboarder, outdoors person would have taken an extra helmet home with them. And a lot of them figured out very early that these were very compatible with outdoor hobbies here in lovely Southern Nevada. How did you guys regulate the inevitable shrink or loss of the helmets? Because we struggled with that for a while. Even honest people, it was difficult keeping honest people honest in many cases.
Yeah. So that is a good point. There are products that we use, whether it's air horns at the job, which make great for your boat at the lake, or whether it's fire extinguishers that work great at your house when you're cooking or barbecuing. So we do experience that less. We have loss. I don't think it's any real great loss that we're experiencing. If someone doesn't have a helmet, we've already issued them one, then the question would be, well, what happened to yours, right? And we would normally want to see proof that they had it, maybe got damaged, or, occasionally we might have someone say, hey, I put it in my wife's car and it got stolen last night, or, who knows. But for the most part, I don't think that's been a huge issue. But again, we probably are not as far along in our journey as you are. Sounds like you rolled these out a couple of years ago. We kind of just rolled them out to our subcontractor, our people, beginning of the year. We haven't really had that internally, but maybe from some of our subs, they might be experiencing some of that now with the newness and people starting to realize, oh, wow, I can wear this for, bike riding or something too. So it's something to keep an eye out for, but I don't think we've seen it yet. What recommendations do you have? What'd you guys end up doing?
Well, we did what you described as check in, check out kind of a thing, as if you wanted to need a new one, turn in the old one. Was a good one. Some sites were marking them. They would put stickers on it so you could tell who they belong to, or not where I work now, but at a company I'm familiar with. What they actually did was they picked the most obnoxious color they can come up with. No offense to ladies, pink was not a top seller for losses, except for the women out there. But yeah, it's tough. It's especially when they found out what the street value was of these things too, as well. So, yeah, it was a multi-pronged attack to try and keep people honest with them, but it did work eventually. I think we saturated the market and it leveled out after that. Yeah.
Well, that's good. We'll definitely keep an eye on those. We're trying not to go to the ugly colors, but we'll see.
Yeah, but I highly recommend don't. Like I said, if we would have sold the poster with the outdoor use, man, they would have walked off the shelves like, oh, cool, that's a great idea.
Yeah. So. We did have people wanting the posters. That is one thing we did. Some of the people, if it's our favorite athlete, they like the posters. So we don't mind making a few extras and giving them out if we have to. So
thanks, Rod. Great presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rod, I think there's a lot of good takeaways, even not even specific to helmets, but just anytime we want to roll out a new equipment or policy, there's a lot of considerations to make sure it's effective when you roll it out.
Yeah, that was probably our biggest takeaway through this, was that.
Yeah, Dale, you have a question?
Yeah, Rod, did you ever, or do you know if in the industry these helmets have been studied as opposed to regular hard hats regarding heat stress issues? I know the white aspect of hard hats goes a little bit to reducing heat stress. And if you've got multiple colors, especially black, that might add to heat stress.
Yeah, we looked at that, Dale, and we gave people the option, and we told them, you know, if it gets too hot in the summertime, be wearing black, because we felt like white would be a better color to reflect that heat rather than to, you know, store it. But we did have some people, and we allowed them to try it, because at the end of the day, it's you know, people are going to wear those things anyways, and a lot of companies, you know, have different colored helmets anyway, so we allowed people to try them, with the caveat that if it's too hot, you know, you can switch it back out. But we haven't had a whole lot of people, to be honest, complain about the heat of them. We had a few people that said they would prefer the vented style, and other people are looking at different style helmets. Like, again, the Milwaukee's not the only, it's not the end all be all. There's Studson, there's just a variety of ones. There's Kask, there's so many styles out there now. It's like, you know, the first electric car, you know, what Tesla, but now you've got every brand in the world making electric cars, it seems like. So, or maybe it was Toyota with the Prius, maybe that was the first thing. But, you know, it's kind of that way. You know, once the market really starts catching on, there's going to be other brands and other styles. And so I know there's some studies out. There's a new brand out now called, I forget, it's got the brim on it now. Full brim, but it's a Type 2 and it has the integrated chin strap. Trying to remember the name of it now, but there's a new brand that came out with all kinds of studies, a wave cell. It's some type of a wave cell technology inside. So I know there's a lot of different brands, and some of the subs that have contacted me now are like experts on every brand and style. And I'm like, great, you know, if you're doing the research on it, that's awesome. I mean, we're moving in the right direction. If they're doing that, I mean, how many times have we ever thought about hard hats in the past 20 years, other than saying, make sure you have one on, right? Now, all of a sudden, everyone's a hard hat expert, and they're looking at the heat variances, and they're looking at the impact ratings and all that. So to me, I'm like, great, that's a win. If we're getting people to start looking at those things, I'm like, awesome. Figure out which one works best for you and go for it. So
It sounds like people are having a lot of fun with all the attachments that you could purchase as well. And then Tyler brought up a good point. If you don't need Class E, the Class C will help keep you cool with it being vented.
yeah, absolutely. So good question, Dale.
Yeah. Russell, did you have a comment or a question?
Tyler said it exactly, is that the amount of electrical protection is related to how much heat is going to stay in that thing. But those two things are related. I've got the brand that I wear is Kask. My boss has a vented model. I've got a non-vented model. Both of us will put in, you know, pretty extensive long field days. I'm not swinging a hammer, but I'm out in the sun for long stretches of time. Just anecdotally, I don't feel any more fatigued than my old MSA V-Guard. So there might be some, I was just going to say, there might be some empirical data that somebody can arrive at, but my anecdotal evidence is I feel okay. And I'm much more, I love having that greater protection.
Yeah, mine, that's the same with me, Russell. I haven't, you know, again, I'm not out there doing the work, but I'm out in the field often. Every day I'm out doing something in the field, and I don't feel a big difference on, you know, and we work in hot areas, whether it's Palm Springs or Arizona or, you know, Las Vegas, they're all hot. It's just hot. So,
Les, you have another question or comment?
Yeah, it was just a statement on the Class E helmets. We would just recommend being flexible. Like what we did was we actually lowered the bar a little bit. We allowed the conventional Class E helmets, like in our substations at high voltage areas, where the impact and fall protection, you know, advantages of these helmets weren't as important. So I would recommend there, if heat stress does become, like we were doing some of our work when we had the dry spell 2 years ago, it was 110 degrees and for days. And we just flexed a little bit and said, okay, you don't need to wear, you can wear the conventional Class E type helmets and stuff like that.
Bill, do you have a question?
No, I was going to comment on the data about heat stress. Georgia Tech, I think it was the environmental and safety department over there. They had some research they did. Now it's difficult, I think, to quantify the amount of heat that you're going to have. Maybe you have a sponge or something with a thermometer, but they did have some data. If you'd like me to pass that on to you, I can show you what that is. It was presented at an AGC national, kind of a similar meeting like this one, but it was done by someone from Turner, and they had some data that was available.
Yeah, there is a lot of data out there. We've read through a boatload of it and looked at all the different things. I'm just not a data guy. I read through enough of it to figure out what we kind of need to do, but you're right. It's good data. And if you want to dive into that stuff and really research it to make sure you're making the right call, then I say get in there and do it. Dig in there. There's a lot out there. So.
Yeah, Bill, feel free to pass it along. We'll share it with the chapter. Thank you. Well, I just want to say thank you again to our meeting sponsor. Really appreciate Malta Dynamics and Tyler being here. Again, if you want to reach out to them, multidynamics.com. Thank you again, Tyler. And then in order to claim your CEUs, please go ahead and either scan this QR code, or you could click on the link in the chat. One thing that's important is to include your email address. That way we could track the CEUs and your attendance and put that together to the chapter. So thank you again, everyone, for being here. The room is open until 9 if anybody wants to stay in network. Our next meeting on electrical safety will be in October. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, Rod. Thanks, Tyler.
Thank you.
Everybody, good to see you.
See you guys.
Good to see you, Craig.
Thanks, Ben.
That QR code goes right where it's supposed to. I love it.
Yeah, it works out perfect.
Good stuff. Bill, thanks for chiming in on that data. Oh, you might have gone. Bill left. Oh, well.
Hi, I just, my name's Chad. And I just wanted
Chad,
to
what's up?
myself, it's the first time I ever attended. It was a great meeting, and look forward. So you do some of these in person as well?
Yes, we do a tour and or a mixer about once or twice a quarter.
Okay, great.
Yep. And so, like Russell said, we're going to put out some communications soon about the November tour at FedEx. It's going to be the first Wednesday or the first Thursday. Still finalizing that date. And then, yeah, we'll do that tour, which is somewhat technical and interesting to see, good networking. And then we'll usually find a nearby bar and grab some drinks afterwards too, and get to know each other a little bit more.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, we'd love to meet you in person, Chad.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then if, yeah, because I'm more on the training side of it than I am out in the field, but it's, yeah, this is great. So.
That's
And if
cool.
you ever-
Who do you work with, Chad? Who do you work with?
I'm actually with the Carpenters International Training Fund. I'm with the Carpenters Union.
Yeah.
I don't know if you are, our international training center is right off 215. So if you ever want a place to do a tour, I could definitely do you a tour. We have 1.3 million square feet under roofs, so training space. So we have from a dive tank to we actually have 3 turbines in the building, so scaffolding. Yeah, we got a lot of cool stuff. If you ever want to,
No
just
way.
That'd be
oh
great.
yeah, any of you just ever want to stop by, just I'm always here. So
Okay.
yeah, it's
That's rad. That's that one right there on Sunset across from Johnstone?
no, we're right on 215 by the rental car center.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Over by the airport.
Yeah, right by the, Yes. So awesome. Well, take care.
That's cool. Thanks, Chad.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chad.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be a fun tour, huh?
That would be killer.
Well,
Absolutely. Huh.